My sister publicly mocked my career, saying, "We voted, you're a failure." I smiled. A year later, she sat across from me in an interview room and realized too late who she'd insulted. Rachel didn't take the rejection well. At first, I thought she had accepted it. She messaged me 2 days after the interview, saying something like, "No hard feelings. Good for you." That was it. No apology, no acknowledgement of the past, just a cold line and a thumbs-up emoji. I left it at that. I had work to focus on, and honestly, I didn't owe her anything. She humiliated me in front of everyone we both cared about, and for years I let it slide. Maybe this was the universe balancing things. But it didn't stop there. 2 weeks later, I got called into HR. Apparently, someone had filed an anonymous complaint against me, accusing me of intimidating behavior in the interview room. The HR rep, Amanda, was professional but direct. She asked if I had any prior relationship with the candidate. I didn't lie. I told her Rachel was my sister. That raised some eyebrows. Amanda leaned back in her chair and gave me that look, like she was trying to figure out what part of the story I wasn't telling her. I stuck to the facts. I didn't mention the Thanksgiving toast or the years of Rachel belittling my work. I kept it clean, professional. The investigation took a week. I wasn't suspended, but I was pulled off 2 projects. It was humiliating. My name was clean by the end of it, but the damage was done. Some people in the office looked at me differently. Word spreads fast, even rumors. I thought maybe Rachel was trying to get some sort of twisted revenge. But I told myself it was just bitterness. People lash out when they're embarrassed. Maybe this was her way of dealing with the reality that she walked into a room and found out the loser she mocked had lapped her in every possible way. Still, I tried to move on. Then it got worse. One night, around 11 p.m., I got a phone call from my mom. She sounded panicked. She said Rachel had told the family I had sabotaged her career and publicly humiliated her in a corporate setting. I could hear my dad yelling in the background, asking if I had really done it. I felt my throat tighten. Rachel had spun the story into something insane. She told them I had lured her into the interview just to get revenge. That I laughed when she was rejected. That I made sure she didn't get the job. None of that happened. But the problem is, I couldn't prove what didn't happen. And here's the real kicker. Rachel started working for one of our biggest competitors a month later. I found out because one of our clients forwarded me a proposal she wrote. Her name was right there in the byline. At first, I was just irritated. Then I saw the client name, Raymond Labs, a contract we had been negotiating for 6 months. A contract that 2 weeks after Rachel started at her new job went to them instead. Coincidence? No, not a chance. Raymond Labs told us they were impressed with the more personalized strategy the other firm offered. I looked over that proposal. It was built on ideas I had discussed with the client during a pitch that was never made public. Only 3 people at our company had access to that document. And one of them had forwarded it to HR during the interview investigation. The dots weren't hard to connect. Rachel had played the long game. She didn't just want to humiliate me, she wanted to wreck me. At this point, I was angry. Not just over the interview. Not just over the client. But because she had turned a moment of her own shame into a campaign to make me look like the villain. I wasn't going to sit back anymore. I didn't go to my boss right away. Instead, I started digging. I looked at everything. Our shared email histories, the timelines, the proposals, her LinkedIn updates. I even talked to someone I knew from Rachel's college days who now worked in compliance at a partner firm. What I found wasn't illegal, but it was enough. Rachel had been using inside knowledge from her time spent preparing for the interview to build proposals that specifically undercut our strategies. She knew how our team operated. She knew who to talk to and how to make herself seem more creative than we were, using insights she never should have had. And still, I didn't go to war. I waited. I watched. I didn't rush it. I waited 2 months. quiet. Observing. Rachel was doing well at the competing firm, too well. They picked up another one of our smaller accounts. And word around the local agency circles was that Rachel had become their client whisperer. The golden girl. It was like she stepped right into my world and started peeling it apart one layer at a time. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was tired. Tired of letting her get the last word. Tired of being the one who walked away while she just kept coming. I reached out to someone I used to freelance with before the creative director job, Marla. She ran a small design consultancy and did contract compliance reviews. I told her I needed her help, under the table, very off the record. She owed me a favor, and she didn't ask too many questions. Within a week, she had something. One of the proposal decks Rachel sent to Raymond Labs used proprietary layout formats and font licenses that were exclusive to our firm. Files I created. The signature design watermark, my watermark, was still embedded in the lower corner of the third slide, clear as day if you knew where to look. Marla checked the metadata. Rachel's firm had altered the file, changed names, colors, and stripped credits. But they hadn't removed the embedded asset IDs. Rookie mistake. That was enough to take to my boss. I walked into his office and laid out everything. Calm. Precise. Emails, timeline notes, my original work, and Marla's audit results. He sat back in his chair and didn't say anything for almost a full minute. Just stared at the screen, scrolling. Then he called legal. That night, I didn't sleep. I knew the firm would go after Rachel's company. I knew the lawsuit was coming. But what I didn't expect was how far it would spread. Turns out, our competitor hadn't just stolen our designs. They had used them in at least 3 separate pitches, all tied back to files Rachel had either received during her interview or accessed through contacts she shouldn't have been in touch with. The whole thing exploded. Whispers turned into emails. Emails turned into legal notices. And within 3 weeks, Rachel's firm suspended her. She didn't see it coming. And then came the part that still doesn't sit right even though I didn't ask for it. HR reopened her interview complaint. They dug through every file she had been sent, every internal conversation logged during the investigation she started. Someone from IT flagged a strange download pattern tied to her follow-up email. She'd copied one of the strategy docs we sent her as a sample during the application process. She shouldn't have kept it. She definitely shouldn't have used it. My company sent her a cease and desist. Her firm got slapped with a lawsuit. And Rachel? She showed up at my apartment one night, banging on the door like she was trying to break it down. When I opened it, she didn't look angry. She looked wrecked. Her makeup was smudged. Hair in a messy knot. She had that look people get when they know it's over and they're still clinging to whatever thread they think might save them. "You did this," she said, barely above a whisper. "No," I replied. "You did." She tried to argue. She tried to twist the truth again. Say it was an accident. Say she didn't mean to hurt anyone, that she just wanted to prove herself. But this time, I didn't flinch. I didn't try to make peace. I just stood there, listening, while she dug the hole deeper. And then she asked the one question I never expected. "Will you talk to them for me? Tell them I'm not a threat." I laughed. Not out of spite. Out of disbelief. After everything, she thought I would save her. That the same brother she humiliated would throw her a rope. I told her I couldn't help her. She left without another word. That should have been the end of it. But a week later, I got a subpoena. Not from my company, from Rachel's defense lawyer. She was fighting the lawsuit. And I was now officially part of the case. The subpoena hit harder than I expected. I stared at it for a while, thinking maybe this was a mistake. But there it was, my name, printed in black and white. They wanted me to testify. Rachel's lawyers were going with the angle that this was a personal vendetta. That I used my influence at the firm to target her. That I was the bitter brother who couldn't handle a joke. It made me sick. I went into that courtroom ready to speak the truth. I didn't paint her as a monster. I didn't twist the facts like she had. I just told the story, simple, raw, real. I explained how she used confidential files, altered my original work, and played it off as her own. I told them about the complaint she filed after the interview. I told them how I didn't retaliate, even when she took shots at me again and again. Rachel sat across from me the entire time, silent. Her lawyer did all the talking. She looked smaller than I remembered, like a balloon with the air slowly leaking out. When they showed the design slides, the ones with my embedded watermark, Rachel finally cracked. She leaned over to her lawyer and whispered something. Her face turned pale. They called for a recess. My lawyer leaned over and said, "She knows it's over." But it wasn't over for me. After the trial, I found out something else. Something I wasn't ready for. One of my coworkers, Nate, was the one who sent Rachel the original file she used in her proposal. During the investigation, he played dumb. Said he couldn't remember who accessed what. But IT logs caught him. He was bribed. Rachel had offered him money to review sample decks for her portfolio. And he said yes. He was fired. Quietly. They didn't want to deal with the press. But the trust inside the team was broken. I felt betrayed all over again. I'd mentored that guy. Got him his first big pitch. Bought him beers after his divorce. Rachel didn't just stab me in the back, she made me watch her burn everything I'd built. The lawsuit ended in a settlement. Her firm paid damages. Rachel was blacklisted in the industry. Nobody wanted the PR risk. She lost her job, her career, her reputation. But I didn't walk away clean either. My promotion to VP was quietly passed over. Not because I did anything wrong, but because we don't want more heat on the leadership team right now. That's what they said. It didn't matter how right I was. The mess still clung to me. My parents stopped calling. They didn't want to choose sides. Which really just meant they chose silence over discomfort. And me? I worked more. Talked less. Stopped showing up to Thanksgiving. I won, if you can call it that. I wrecked her, but she took parts of me down with her. So here I am, telling this story not because I want pity, but because people need to understand something. Revenge feels good. At first. Watching her world crumble, knowing she earned every second of it? Yeah, that part? That part was satisfying. But revenge doesn't heal anything. It just empties you in a different way. And sometimes, the truth doesn't set you free. Sometimes, it just leaves you standing alone with no one left to blame.